I'm a self-taught developer here in the UK, and it actually just passed my 2 years of learning to code since I first started with the HTML and CSS sort of curriculum on upskill courses. And I thought I'd just do a quick video of sort of how I got there and also the resources that I used in the early days to really sort of kickstart my self-taught journey. So, as you can see here, I've got the skills toolkit from the government. So this is UK government, sorry, if you're watching from another country, as part of the National Careers Service. But yeah, essentially this was, I believe, set up in the early days of the pandemic. So this was to help with, redundancies and also any furlough in sort of employees, I guess, in terms of getting them set up perhaps with some courses or, trying to upskill themselves. And you can see here, learn new skills or change jobs. And that was really the goal of these courses. And they're all completely free. And I think they come from a different load of sort of different sources. So you can see the Open University, which is, again, I'm not sure if it's global, but it's certainly in the UK. And just a number of different groups and sort of colleges, I guess, put together all these courses. And you could see here, as I was sort of scrolling through, I didn't feel like I was very good at maths and not too bothered in sort of learning anymore, I guess, at the time. But there were 6 on computer essentials, and there were 16 on computer science and 8 on coding. And I think all of those combined, was way more than any of the other sections, even professional development. So it was quite clear to me that IT, as I kind of knew already, been in a sort of semi-technical role previously before sort of making the switch after learning to code. But yeah, it seemed like tech was the route forward for me, and it seems like there was just so many different courses and options available. I was just looking through and just sort of getting inspired almost of what you can build if you just know a little bit of code, I guess, or at least I thought at the time. So yeah, I didn't actually take any of these, I believe, in the end. I was maybe sort of enrolled on a couple. I think there might have been actually this one, the Google Digital Garage, Understanding the Basics of Code. That was just 1 hour. But I really did get hooked on sort of trying to find the best resource. And I think I was scouring Reddit and obviously YouTube as well. And I came across this one called Upskill Courses. And essentially, I did the Essential Web Developer course, or at least I started it, as I said, just a little over 2 years ago now. They have a load of different free courses and some pro ones that I guess you have to pay for. But yeah, I did, or started, sorry, the Essential Web Developer course. And if I just go through that, it was covering a full stack, web development using HTML, CSS, JavaScript. And then I think the back end was Ruby on Rails. And that's actually a key point of this because that's kind of where I tripped up. And as you can see, I think this guy who created it was a teacher at General Assembly, and I was looking at some coding boot camps, but I was sort of working full time and or on furlough sort of during that year that I was learning to code. So yeah, I didn't go for one in the end, but I certainly found this website and started going through the course, learning HTML and CSS, as we can see here. And I did all of that, and then I think I got to somewhere around here trying to set up a Rails app, so Ruby on Rails, and I think there was something about setting up GitHub, as we can see here, and then AWS, and I kind of just got lost really. I was sort of deep in the HTML and CSS side, trying to learn that from here and some other resources. But yeah, it just, for me, it just didn't work out. These are all video courses, I believe, that you sort of then code yourself on the side. Maybe I just had a different setup, but yeah, it didn't work for me. And unfortunately, I then stopped that course and then moved over to another free online resource, which was Free Code Camp. And then essentially this one did stick for me. So as you can see here, they have a number of different certifications, and then within each one, a sort of load of different sections as well that you can complete, sort of self-paced. And actually, I guess now there's a new responsive web design certification, but I did the now legacy one. I started here, that was at the top, and then learned JavaScript, and then did a bit of front end, which was the React side of things. But yeah, I literally start here, and I think if you know Free Code Camp already, I know I've done a video on it before, if it's worth it. It certainly is. It was a great resource, and even sort of the very first HTML you're learning in the browser, it was really good to have the sort of the simple instructions, and maybe you learn a little bit, You've got your text editor here that you can write into. There's no sort of automatic syntax or emmet. You're coding every single character, which just sort of builds that repetition, which is really really good when you're learning to code. You've got your output, so like sort of the terminal here, as well as the what's it called, the sort of the browser window as well for that responsive feedback. And I think all of this coupled together, rather than watching videos and coding along separately, I think that sort of immersive experience really sort of helped me learn just the basics throughout all of this. And yeah, I sort of started to go through all of these different courses within the responsive web design, and then I moved on to JavaScript as well. And obviously, at this point, I was learning through other resources. I was doing some YouTube tutorials and sort of finding other sort of blogs and stuff online. So maybe that's a time for another video to go through the different resources I used. I do have a sort of a JavaScript course that I definitely recommend to anyone that's learning and have done as well before. And it's still probably the best course, but certainly Free Code Camp is where I started. If there was a new topic, let's say, or something new that I hadn't learned yet, let's say ES6, I'd start here and then would find other resources to sort of supplement that learning. But yeah, it's a fantastic site, and I'm sort of fully backing and behind Free Code Camp in sort of terms of their mission. And just having this amount of stuff for free is just mind blowing. There's so much information, and I can see actually they've got a new beta certification for relational databases, which is probably something I might do, as well as this new responsive web design as well. I was just having a look, and yeah, there's a lot of information here that would probably still be useful for my role today. Building forms and sort of just, I guess, really mastering and grasping CSS. It's perhaps a lot more complicated than you might think, especially now that I'm building sort of production grade web apps and software. So yeah, that was I guess the gist of it in terms of sort of starting out my first 2 years. And then if I just go to my GitHub, you'll see here, I've just gone back to 2020. You can see that's when I created my account for the upskill course. And then I guess this whole time, basically, I was just learning to code on Free Code Camp, really. So a good few months spent going through all of that certification. And then into 2021 is when I realized, if I'm going to start looking for perhaps a job, I obviously need an up-to-date GitHub. I think my first actual project was my initial portfolio, which I've done a review video on, which I'll leave down in the description if you want to check that out. I have since updated it. And I'm sort of working on other sites now as well. So as you can see here, just some TypeScript algorithms with coding challenges. I've got sort of React components and sort of design library. And I'm learning some patterns as well, so design, rendering, and performance patterns, which has been really interesting. And I think all of this sort of self-learning has really been sort of propped up and supported by just initially self-learning as well, going down that self-taught route and that journey. Learning to code is certainly difficult. It was not easy. I'm not going to say it was. There's a lot of time, and every commit is sort of taking that dedicated time to sit down and learn something new, code it out and push it up. But yeah, I mean, I'm still enjoying it just as much as I did on that first commit, and sort of seeing the things in the window, when you're going through Free Code Camp, as I do today. So yeah, there's a lot of information out there, as I said. But I definitely recommend Free Code Camp if you're starting, and perhaps in another video I'll cover some of the YouTube courses and tutorials that I followed as well to sort of supplement that. And down the line I've got perhaps ideas to continue making some more Free Code Camp videos, because I have done a sort of a whole section on these JavaScript algorithms as well, going through those just to, again, sort of solidify them for myself, really, and just make sure that I fully understand the concepts. And I was learning a bit more JavaScript at the time. So yeah, really, really good site. As I said, recommend it. And that was my sort of 2 years of coding journey, really. It's quite interesting to see where I've come from, not that long ago relatively, and now sort of have a whole new sort of skill sets, and really this skills toolkit, I think, is what I like to think of it as, in terms of a number of different skills to sort of build software and web apps as well. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you in the next one, and let me know if you've got any questions. Thank you.